Hey guys, Emma here, also known as 8vinyllow, bringing you all another video. Today's video is going to be my response to the Vinyl Tag 2021 that's been making its rounds here in the vinyl community. Except what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it with a little bit of a twist. Because I'm like a week late now and because there's like a million tags going out right now, I want to switch it up a little bit for you to keep things interesting and fresh. So I'm not going to change the questions, I'm not going to do a little dance, although but what I am going to do is I am going to do the questions backwards. So those of you who skipped through my introduction and are just going straight to the vinyl and are familiar with the questions may be a little confused that I'm showing Cheap Trick during my favorite girl group section, and I'm showing Bert Jansch as my favorite punk album. So have fun with that if that's your thing. So I just figured what I would do is I would go through and read the questions from 20 down to 1. That way we spice things up a little bit, keep the questions interesting, because I do think they're really good questions, and I don't know, just make it a little bit more fun, add some spice to it. So if you're on TikTok, then you add a little bit of spice. Okay, let's get into this then, starting with number 20. Number 20 for Vinyl Tag 2021, here we go. My favorite 2020 reissue. I'm gonna go with Candlemas Folkestone Prism. This was a reissue that came out earlier in the year, I think in the summer, put out by Sunday's Modern Harmonic. And this is a reissue that only had a very, very limited run, so I'm very happy that I was able to grab this. Candlemas is a band from Arizona. It's a psychedelic surf type band. Really, really interesting, captivating, engaging album. I'm not one who digs deeply into the psychedelic genre. I like psychedelic music, that's fine, but I don't know a lot. But this one I wanted to give a chance when I saw that it was getting released through Modern Harmonic. One, because I love Sundays and love what Modern Harmonic just put out in general. I think they do a really nice job. But two, because the more I did more research on this album, just the more interesting it was to me. And so originally this was released in 1971 and there were only 300 copies pressed and put out. So the fact that they even did this reissue was a huge deal. And then of course, the limited run that Modern Harmonic did do, this is hard to find in itself. So really, really good psychedelic, surf, desert, rock album. So if you're into psychedelic music, you really need to check this one out because I think that you would really, really enjoy it. All right, number 19, a punk album, or the closest thing you have to it. I enjoy punk music. I don't talk about it a lot, but I really, really like punk music. Anything punk rock, pop punk, post-punk, any punk, I really do tend to enjoy. One of the albums that's in my collection that I think just blows everything else out of the water in my punk genre, not only because of the music, but just the sound and the quality, and you'll see why. This is Generation X, Sweet Revenge, and it's on 220 gram vinyl, so it is heavy, but it sounds fantastic. This was an album that was recorded in 1979, but it wasn't released till 1998. And it kind of makes you mad because it's so good. So what would have happened when it, if it came out in 1979? I don't know. But this is such a wonderful release by Generation X. It's my favorite that they've put out, and it's genuinely one of my favorite just punk albums in general. So if you haven't checked this out, I definitely recommend it. All right, number 18, an album they don't get. This was easy. I thought of this right away. This is Iggy Pop, Zombie Birdhouse. I believe that it was released in 1982. It's Iggy Pop's 6th solo studio album, and they just don't get it. Of course, critics, when this came out, they were not happy with it. They did not like it. But I think it's a extremely underrated release, underrated release of Iggy Pop's. Yes, it's bizarre. I mean, it's Iggy. Why wouldn't it be bizarre? I think it's one of his most honest, releases. I think it's a personal release for Iggy. Obviously, his voice isn't the strongest on this. I really like I really like how he incorporates kind of African beats in this, but I just really like it. And this has always been a release from him, I should say, that I really just gravitate towards. I like it. I don't know what else to say. Some people hate it. Majority of people hate it. I think that it's extremely overlooked and underrated. So hopefully with time, this gets more praise. But Zombie Birdhouse, you just don't get it. I get it. You guys don't. Maybe you do. If you do, good job. All right. The last album that I purchased. I have some pre-orders. I think I've purchased more, but this was the first album that I saw recently that I haven't even shown yet to you guys. This is the Kinks Lola, and this is the 50th anniversary reissue remastered. So this just came out at the end of last month, and of course I picked it up. I've been really getting into the Kinks lately, and this was just an album that I needed, and all of the Kinks albums that I have so far are the 50th anniversary reissues. So I'm very happy with them. They sound great, and this one, I played it, sounds phenomenal as well. So really good release here. 16, an album you had to get an OG copy of. I couldn't really think of anything off the top of my head. I mean, obviously OGs are OGs, and they're cool to have, but I'm cool with reissues, I'm cool with OGs, I'm cool with whatever. I would say, obviously, like, I want Cheap Trick all to be original. I'm pretty positive I have all originals here. I think it'd be really, really cool to have John Mayall and the Blues Breakers with Eric Clapton, the Beano record, the original UK mono. That would probably be the OG that I would want out of all OGs. But I don't have that one yet, and I don't know if I will, but we'll see. Speaking of which, number 15, an album that you've listened to the most. At this point, and I'm going to show another album, which is probably the album that I've listened to the most, but for the sake of not duplicating, John Mayall and the Blues Breakers with Eric Clapton, Beano. You guys, when I put this on and I hear the opening guitar right at the beginning, I get chills and goosebumps every time. I'm not overreacting. I'm not overplaying it. I get chills. So I love this album so much. Okay. An album cover that I love, number 14. Baker Gurvitt's Army, Elysian Encounter. I have always absolutely loved this cover. This is one of those underrated gems, and I've talked about it a couple of times on this channel. It was released in 1975. Of course, Ginger Baker. The drumming on here is absolutely phenomenal, of course. And then the Gurvitz brothers. I think one's named Adrian, and I can't think of the other one off the top of my head. This is your kind of proto heavy metal hard rock album, and it is so, so good. Again, just an underrated gem, hidden gem that a lot of people don't talk about, and they should. Ginger Baker. I mean, come on. So good. All right. But I love, like, the extraterrestrial theme in that artwork. Number 13, a girl group. The Supremes Motown. So good. Not much else to say. Supremes at their best. They're good. All right. Show an EP. So the EP I'm going to show, this is a 10-inch single from 2011, released by the band Candy Gold. And Candy Gold is a Chicago kind of supergroup type band. It includes members from a band that now I cannot think of. It's like 11 years. Oh boy, you'll get me in the comments. But it also includes, I think, the bassist from Wilco, as well as, of course, Cheap Trick Connection, Bunny Carlos on drums. So a really unique project. They didn't release anything else after this, and I really wish that they would, because this EP kicks butt. Great rocker of an album, and I really hope that we maybe see more from Candy Gold in the future. And of course, Bunny Carlos drumming on here, phenomenal. All right, number 11, a common album and an uncommon album. We're gonna do Cheap Trick, of course. It's 8vinyllow, this is where you are. And common album, this one I see all the time, of course. Easily one of their best, not arguing that. This is Dream Please. It's probably my second favorite album of theirs, but extremely common and for good reason. An uncommon album. This is an album that I never thought that I would have in my collection on vinyl. Came to the conclusion I'm never going to own this. Then all of a sudden, if you've seen that video, don't go see it because I like crying it. Or you can go see it. It's really sweet. Legendary Jim sent me my all-time grail, and it is this album, and it is, in the Cheap Trick world, the most uncommon vinyl, Cheap Trick vinyl you can get. So this is Cheap Trick's, the latest from 2009, and I still can't believe that I am holding it in my hands. So Jim, if you're watching, thank you so much. I still love it so much and just blown away. So, uncommon for sure. All right, an album that needs a vinyl pressing. Please, 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 please. Cheap Trick 1997. One of my favorite releases from them. I think it would be number 3 in my top 3. Such an underrated album of theirs. This is a rocker. This is Cheap Trick at their best. Okay, this is pure, unfiltered Cheap Trick right here. And of course, my channel name comes from this album, so connect the dots. But this really needs to get released on vinyl, and so does Rockford, okay? Number 9, an album that tells a story. So let's talk about my guy, Bert Jansch, for a second. This is Birthday Blues, one of my favorite releases from him, and one of my favorite albums of all time. If you've been watching my channel, you know that I am a Goodwill person. I love trying to hunt down vinyl, or at least did before COVID. But I love the thrill of the hunt at Goodwill. And one day, went to Goodwill, and there were a bunch of albums there. Jefferson Airplane, trying to remember now, Chicago, you know, just whatever albums. So I started picking some up. This was in there. This was in there, a compilation from him called Lucky 13, and a couple of Pentangle albums. Now, I wasn't too familiar with Pentangle at the time. I owned Solomon Seal, which came from this same haul, but this was there. Don't know anything about it, but I thought it was interesting. Plus, it has a cute puppy. I mean, come on. So I grabbed it, and I brought it home, and I played it. Didn't get it. Was like, oh, I don't know. But there was one song on here that really caught my attention. It's called Poison. Kind of gave me the chills the first time I listened to it. Everything else was okay, but Poison kind of gave me the chills. So I put it away, and about, a couple months later, I took it back out, put it on. Just, I don't know what happened, but just full-blown, like, if sparks could have been flying out of my face, it would have been, because I just fell deeply, madly in love with this release. So that's my story. I mean, found it at Goodwill, didn't know anything about it, and now it's become one of my favorite albums of all time. So if you're ever at a Goodwill and there's a record for $1, take a chance on it, because you might have discovered something amazing. And now I love everything Bert Jansch, and he's one of my favorite artists, and I adore Pentangle, and I'm really getting into British folk, so yeah. Great, great album. All right, number 8, a compilation album. This was the first one that came to mind. This was a record store release from last year. This is Double Whammy, a 1960s garage rock rave up, of course, put out by Kraft Recordings. They've done an amazing job recently with all of their releases. But just such just a fun garage rock comp. If you're into garage rock, if you really like the Nuggets compilation and things like that, you really dig this release. I've had so much fun with it. I've talked about it so much that I've gotten some of my buddies to get on board and get this album, and they've loved it. So just a really, really fun, good release. If you ever see this at a local record store, if there's still copies left, grab it. You won't be disappointed. Number 7, a white label promo. One of my, like, a million copies of this album, my favorite album probably of all time. Cheap Trick 1977, self-titled debut. I got a white label of this one, so yay. And I have like a million more copies, so it's okay. It's all right. Number 6, an album where an artist or band changed directions. We're gonna go with, because I love British blues too, The British blues rock band, 10 years after. This is A Space in Time. And this is when they started moving out of their British blues roots, very bluesy, blues rock, but extremely bluesy British blues roots, into more of a kind of poppy, acoustic direction. One of their best albums, it has this song, oh my goodness, why can't I think of it off the top of my head? Here we go. Yeah, I'd Love to Change the World. Has that song, so I'm sure you're familiar with that one. It's a great tune, but they definitely changed directions from more extremely bluesy to, there's like a couple tracks on here that maybe have a little bit of a blues kind of there to it, but everything else is very, very much of the time and very poppy and also more acoustic than their other releases. So I'm a huge 10 Years After fan. I think Alvin Lee is severely underrated as a guitarist. Okay, number 5, a concept album. I've been really getting into the Kinks recently. I've talked about this album a couple times, of course. Village Green Preservation Society. Probably one of my favorite releases from the Kinks so far as I've been exploring. I can't get enough of this album. I play it on my way to work probably twice a week. Just so fun. I love this song, Last of the Steam Powered Trains. I think that's what it's called. What is it? Let's see if I can get it on here. Yeah, The Last of the Steam Powered Train. Oh, I was right. Such a fun song. So it pumps me up in the morning before I get to work, and shape and mold the minds of the future. But we're gonna go with this one just because I've really been on a kick with it recently. All right, number 4, a box set. Here is something that you have not seen before because I haven't showed it to you guys yet, but this is something that I've picked up a couple of weeks ago. I haven't even cracked it open, but I'm so excited. MC5 Total Assault, the 50th anniversary limited edition issue of course, Kick Out the Jams, Back in the USA in High Time. I didn't own any MC5, and this was the direction that I wanted to go because it just has everything right here. So finally own this. This is the box set. So excited to crack this open and give this a listen. All right, an LP that I want to find in 2021. Basically, I just want more John Mayall. I really want to focus back into my John Mayall collection. I was going strong there for a little bit, and then I kind of fell back a little bit and wasn't picking up as much Mayall as I want to. So that's definitely my goal. I already have 2 releases on pre-order. And then I'm eyeing the box set, the new CD first generation box set, CD box set with like 35 CDs. It's so cool. Am I gonna get it? No, but I'm eyeing it. So maybe one day, maybe if I win the lottery soon, I don't know. It's like $500 or something insane, which you get a lot of, you get a lot for it, but yeah. But yes, the goal is to add more John Mayall to my vinyl collection. So that's what I want to do in 2021. All right, number 2, a quarantine buy. This was the first thing that I kind of bought at the beginning of quarantine because I was planning on doing a Chicago band series and I never got around to it. But this is, of course, The Shadows of Night, Gloria. And I'm not going to say much about this because I still do want to do that series at some point. I also have their release Backdoor Men, and I just really, really love this band. So this was the first album that I bought in quarantine, so this is my quarantine buy. And last but not least, number 1, we made it. Number 1, a discovery in 2020. This has to be probably one of my favorites. I showed this in my top albums of 2020. This is Westerman, Your Hero Is Not Dead, and I was just blown away by this album on first listen. It was someone, obviously, that I hadn't heard before. This was his debut album, and I'm just really looking forward to future releases from him, because if this is like this is Westerman, this is my debut, this is who I am, then he made a statement, and I am definitely excited to hear more. So Westerman, please do more because this was amazing. But with that, we made it through 20 questions, Vinyl Tag 2020, the backwards Vinyl Tag 2021, and that's it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope I was able to spice it up for you just a little bit. And with that, everyone, stay safe, be well, and I will see you guys for my next video. Bye, guys.